law in a modern democracy? It sounds like something out of a dystopian novel. But in December 2024, South Korea's President Yoon Suk Yeol did just that, sending shockwaves through the nation and beyond.
Wow, that's a bold move in this day and age. What exactly prompted such a drastic action?
Well, it's a complex situation with roots in South Korea's political landscape. President Yoon, facing historically low approval ratings and opposition from the National Assembly, accused the Democratic Party of anti state activities and collaboration with North Korean communists. He used this as justification to declare martial law, effectively suspending civilian government and imposing military rule.
Hmm, that sounds like a pretty serious accusation. How did the public and other political figures react to this?
The reaction was swift and decisive. Despite attempts by military forces to prevent it, 190 legislators managed to gather at the National Assembly proceeding hall. In a show of unity rarely seen in politics, they unanimously passed a motion to lift martial law just hours after it was declared.
That's impressive. It seems like the checks and balances built into the system worked as intended.
Exactly. It's a testament to the resilience of South Korea's democratic institutions. But here's where it gets really interesting. There were actually warnings about this months in advance. Kim Min Seok, a member of the Democratic Party's Supreme Council, stated back in September that he had well founded reasons to believe the administration was preparing for martial law.
Oh, so there were red flags even before the declaration? How did the government respond to these allegations at the time?
Well, predictably, the presidential office dismissed these claims as groundless. The People Power Party floor leader even called it scare tactics and propaganda. But in hindsight, it seems those warnings weren't so far fetched after all.
That's quite the understatement. It makes you wonder what was going on behind the scenes. Were there any other signs that something like this might happen?
Actually, yes. There have been some serious allegations about attempts to provoke a crisis with North Korea to justify martial law. In May 2024, North Korea began sending balloons loaded with trash into South Korea. Then in October, North Korea accused the South of flying propaganda scattering drones over Pyongyang.
That sounds like typical inter Korean tensions. What makes these incidents stand out?
Here's where it gets really concerning. Park Beom-kai, a member of the National Defense Committee, has claimed that Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun actually orchestrated the drone incident to increase tensions with the North. Another legislator, Lee Ki-hyun, says he confirmed a report that Kim instructed the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to fire warning shots and then strike the origin of sewage balloons flying from the north.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that South Korean officials might have been deliberately trying to escalate tensions with North Korea? That's a pretty serious accusation.
Exactly. If true, these allegations suggest a deliberate attempt to provoke a local war to justify martial law. It's a dangerous game to play, especially given the history of conflict on the Korean Peninsula.
That's putting it mildly. It sounds like there might have been a coordinated effort behind the scenes. Are there any other players we should be aware of?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about what's being called the Chungam Clique, a group of Yoon's high school classmates who he appointed to high ranking positions in his administration and the military. This group includes the Minister of National Defense, the commander of the Defense Counterintelligence Command, and several other key military and government positions.
So, you're telling me that a group of the president's old high school buddies were in key positions of power when all this went down? That seems problematic.
To say the least, it's a stark reminder of how personal connections can influence politics at the highest levels. Now, let's pause for a moment and consider this. What are some potential dangers of having a close knit group of associates in key government positions? Think about it for a second.
Hmm. Well, I'd say the main risks are groupthink, lack of diverse perspectives, and the potential for abuse of power. It's easier for a small, tight knit group to make decisions that benefit themselves rather than the country as a whole.
Excellent points. Now, let's zoom out for a moment. What does this whole episode tell us about the state of democracy in South Korea?
Well, it seems like a real stress test for their democratic system. On one hand, the fact that a president felt emboldened to declare martial law is concerning. But on the other hand, the swift response from the National Assembly shows that their checks and balances are functioning.
Exactly. It shows both the strengths and vulnerabilities of the system. And it's not just about South Korea's call for democracies worldwide. So here's another question to ponder. What lessons can other countries learn from this event? Take a moment to think about it.
I'd say the main takeaway is the importance of strong democratic institutions and an engaged citizenry. It's crucial to have systems in place that can quickly respond to and counteract potential abuses of power.
Well said. And it's not just about the big dramatic moments like martial law declarations. It's about the everyday work of maintaining democratic institutions, fostering political engagement, and ensuring transparency in government.
Absolutely. So, what happened in the aftermath of this incident?
While the political fallout was significant, the opposition immediately began impeachment proceedings against Yoon. Several officials in his administration resigned, including Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun. There are ongoing investigations into other officials and military officers for their roles in implementing the decree.
And how did Yoon himself respond to the backlash?
On December 7th, just days after the incident, Yoon issued an apology for declaring martial law and promised not to do it again. But as you can imagine, the damage to public trust may take much longer to repair.
I should think so. This event will likely have long lasting implications for South Korean politics and society, won't it?
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of democratic institutions and the importance of constant vigilance. As we've seen time and time again throughout history, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
Well said. As we wrap up, what do you think are the key takeaways from this incident?
I think there are several. First, the importance of checks and balances in a democratic system. We saw how crucial it was that the National Assembly had the power to overturn the martial law declaration. Second, the potential dangers of concentrating too much power in the executive branch. And third, the crucial role of a free press and an engaged citizenry in holding leaders accountable.
Those are excellent points. It's also a reminder that democracy is not a given. It requires constant work and protection. This incident in South Korea serves as a wake up call, not just for that country, but for democracies around the world.
Exactly. And it's not just about the big dramatic moments like martial law declarations. It's about the everyday work of maintaining democratic institutions, fostering political engagement, and ensuring transparency in government. This incident in South Korea is a powerful reminder of what can happen when those things break down.
It certainly is. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
Just this. As we've seen in South Korea, democracy can be fragile, but it can also be resilient when people stand up for it. It's a lesson we'd all do well to remember, no matter where we live. The next time you hear about political tensions or potential overreach by those in power, remember South Korea in 2024 and ask yourself, what can I do to protect and strengthen democracy in my own community?
That's a great note to end on. It's been a fascinating discussion, and I hope our listeners will take these lessons to heart.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us on Gen FM, where we bring you the stories that matter, unraveled, and explored. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep questioning.